Unity of Houston is an inclusive church where we seek to understand and live the teachings of Jesus and other spiritual masters. At Unity, we welcome all people from all spiritual paths and every walk of life. We celebrate the diversity of our city and of our world, and we teach love, tolerance, and oneness, seeking to live in harmony with open minds and open hearts.
Wherever you are in your spiritual path, you are always welcome at Unity. Join us and discover that the life of your dreams is already within you.
I'm so excited, as you know, to have Reverend Howard Caesar here. And I just want to say briefly, he doesn't need an introduction, but he's getting one anyway. So really, those of you who don't know who Howard or Diane or were not here to be blessed by them personally, you will be blessed today. And we're so grateful because Howard and Diane Caesar had a ministry here at Unity of Houston for 34 years. And it's been 5 years, hard to imagine, 5 years since they have gone on, but Howard is teaching and doing retreats and workshops and blessing people and having an online presence as well and leaving thoughts for the day, all kinds of ways that he still touches lives and blesses people. I don't think there is a square inch of this campus that Howard and Diane haven't touched or cared for or been a part of in some way in the time that they were here, and the lives that are represented in these seats and online, near and far. You know, there are so many lives that have been changed, mine for sure. Howard is my Unity minister, my first minister, and continues to be a model for me. And so I'm so grateful to be blessed to be a part of this community. This is my home church because of you. And so I'm so grateful that you are here today to bring your great wisdom. And so I think I've said enough, don't you think? Don't you want to hear from him? Reverend Howard Caesar, so happy to have you here.
Thank you for that. Thank you. Thank you. There's so much love and joy here. It's always such a blessing to come back and be part of it. And I miss you all, but I know you're in good hands. People like Karen and Michael and the rest of the staff, Eugene. And I just bless this entire ministry all the time. I pray for it and know that it's got the light of God at work in and through it. So thank you for allowing me to come back. And I know that Michael, we just bless him. He's on a sabbatical, and I hope he's getting refreshed and renewed. He certainly deserves it. But it's good to be here. The Lord be with you. The Lord be with you. You've heard that, right? There was a pastor that said that at every worship service when he began the worship service at his church. So he'd come to the mic and he would say, "The Lord be with you." And always the people would respond, "And also with you." Okay? Well, one Sunday, he was made aware that they were having some trouble with the sound system. And it just wasn't working for sure. And so this was an unusual time. First time up to the microphone, what he said to them was, "There's something wrong with our sound system." And all the people said, "And also with you." I don't know where he went from there. That's funny. So my title is Choosing Your Reality. Choosing your reality. We're always choosing a reality. What the reality is we're going to live from and in, because there's always realities coming at us. All kinds of realities, right? And there's more than one plane of existence that is available to us. There is this worldly plane of existence that is very real, and within this reality we eat, we sleep, we raise our families, we shop for food and clothing, we build buildings, we pave roads, we form communities and nations and governments and create laws for the common good. And moving inside this experience, we make agreements and attempt to work together with purpose, often questioning, or rarely questioning, I would say, the appearance of things. And yet, within this experience, as we live it, there is something else which knows us, something else that is calling us unto itself. And amidst our very full and complicated lives, it's there. It's there. But while many things in this life, command our attention, there is this presence. And it won't force itself upon us. It won't force itself upon us above the competing daily demands and responsibilities that come at us. It waits. It waits. Seemingly out of sight, beyond what our eyes see. And only the opening of the heart calls it forward, and only the Spirit within is able to know it. And as we experience the many moments of a lifetime, there is always the dilemma between choosing to see only this lesser plane of existence or to awaken and see beyond it. Now, what I did was paraphrase some writings by Paula D'Arcy, and I was moved by what she wrote, wanted to put it to some extent in my own words, because today I want to talk to you about that dilemma, this dilemma of choosing to see only the lesser plane of existence or something else that calls to us, that knows us and is asking us to see beyond that, because there's stuff going on in the world. There's some scary stuff, and you can't not see it, hear about it. And what do we do with that? There's a realm of reality in which we live around, and as well as knowing that, as Eddie sang so beautifully, God is good. God is good. We have to know that. And how do we know that? Reality. Things are not always as they appear. At one time, people thought that the world was flat, and at some point you were going to, sail off the end and drop. Proved not to be true, not to be the truth, not to be reality. One time we thought the sun rotated around the earth. Proved to be not true, not reality. Things are not always as they appear. If you take a flower seed and put it in your hand, it's just a little flower seed, let's say like a hyacinth or something, and you place it there. In that seed, its truth is it's a flower. Can you see the flower in the seed? No. But that's its true identity. It's somehow beyond what you're seeing. That is its true reality. And that's the dilemma. Are we able to see a reality that is beyond what we are seeing in form at first, you see? In that seed, there's actually color and beauty and fragrance and a gift, you see? And when that seed engages in the forces of life, in a harmonious and orderly fashion, it goes through a process in which it discovers and begins to express its true identity as a flower. And we may ask, how could that much beauty and color and fragrance come from that little seed? But it does. Things are not always what they appear. Robert Browning, one of the great poets, you've surely heard his name, he had a depth of spirituality within him and understanding, and he wrote from that in many ways. But one wonderful piece of writing was a poem called Paracelsus. And I share with you what he wrote, because it's so powerful, I feel. Quote, "Truth is within ourselves. It takes no rise from outward things, whatever you may believe. There is an inmost center in us all where truth abides in fullness, and around wall upon wall the gross flesh hems it in, this perfect, clear perception, which is truth. A baffling and perverting carnal mesh binds it and makes all error. And to know rather consists in opening out a way whence the imprisoned splendor may escape, than in effecting entry for a light supposed to be without. The light is found within us. We may look for fulfillment, happiness, joy, whatever, externally all the time, but it really originates. It originates and is experienced within ourselves, you see. It's found within. There's another reality beyond the external. That is the real you. That is the imprisoned splendor, if you will. You know, Jesus said, "You are the light of the world." He was saying, that's your reality. Now, you may think you're a body, but you only have a body. You're not a body. There's something more to you. You may think that you are your house, your car, your job, your circumstances, but your true identity is that you are spirit. You're a spiritual being, and you are a luminous light being, and you are the light of the world. And so what we're here to learn is how best to identify with that reality that exists in us and allow it to be. You know, he really put things in order, first things first. And the way he said that was, seek ye first, you know, the kingdom of God. Build that spiritual consciousness. And the kingdom, where's the kingdom? We're told biblically, it's within you. It's within you, right? As Browning says, there is an inmost center where truth abides. An inmost center. Now, some of the big lessons that we are here to learn in this life, if we are to evolve and if we are to be happy, you know, is to learn what is real and what is not. What is true and what is false or a lie. You know, what things change and what is changeless. To learn what is temporal and what is permanent. What brings freedom and what brings limitations. What brings happiness and what brings conflict. What brings love and what brings fear. And so these things are all basically two columns of two different realities, you see. There's a lower plane of existence, and then there's a higher plane of existence. And one is the reality of living focused on an outer world where a lot of things are happening and going on that aren't too pleasant and they're scary and frightening. It's the physical world in form. And then the other is this world beyond it, that we see into a formless world of sort of the unseen, that we have to somehow, from this inner center, know that it exists as a true reality beyond some of the sad things that may be going on in our world and maybe even frightening us. There are many versions of reality in this world of form, of course. There is the variations of rich and poor, healthy and unhealthy, happiness and unhappiness, freedom and bondage, conflict, good and bad. But basically, there is the world, a reality of duality, and then there is a world beyond it. Y'all believe that? Yeah, and we're here to learn and to see on into it, really. Now, we're living in some difficult times, you know. Not here to get negative on you, I won't do that. But for some people, it's very frightening times. And you know, every era of time has had its very challenging aspects and things going on. I came across something that told about if a person was born in 1900, the year 1900, and lived at least 70 years, okay? During that 70 years, this is what they experienced. Being born in 1900, at the age of 14, World War I starts, and 22 million people are killed by the time that person was 18. Later, when they're still 18, a Spanish flu epidemic hit the planet, and it killed 50 million people in a period of 2 years. And when that person who was born in 1900 was age 29, the Great Depression began. And that was some real hard times. At age 39, World War II started. And the U.S. entered it, and 75 million people perished in that World War II. 6 million in the Holocaust. Later, there was the Korean War, followed by the Cuban Missile Crisis, followed by the Vietnam War, followed by many things in between that. I'm sure you get the point, right? So that was an era of time if you were born in 1900. There has always been, you must understand, the reality of challenges on the plane of the material physical realm of form. It has always existed for people to work through somehow. They come and they go. They have beginnings and they have endings. You see? And some say these are critical times that we live in and really, bordering on our future existence, and I don't have to tell you what they are, but I will. So we're all on the same page. You're aware of the issues, things around climate change and guns and fires and drought and COVID-19 and abortion issues and voting issues and economic and political issues and international issues and war of Ukraine. And these describe the reality of the world in which we live that has some things going on in the physical material world for us to deal with. But something higher knows us and calls us to itself. In the midst of all of that, you see, there is a presence, and there is a spirit that knows a truth, a higher reality. And we connect with it where? In the heart, not in the head, because the head will focus on all this and take you away from the center. It's the heart, you see. It invites us to remember that there's another reality, a spiritual reality that exists beyond sometimes our ability to see it in form just yet. Jesus said, in the world you will have tribulation, but be of good cheer. I have overcome the world. And he gave us some clues. He also said, follow me. All right? And one of the things that he said that was very important, that we all need to hear and remember again and again, and he said, you have to make a choice. You have to make a choice to either be in the world and not of it. In the world and not of it. You have to choose. The question is, are we in it or are we above it? Are we in it or above it? Can you say that? In it or above it? In it or above it? I choose above it. Oh, nobody wanted to say that. I choose above it. Right. So the world has its circumstances, but the circumstances, folks, can't have you, okay? Whatever's going on in the world or in your personal lives and things that you're facing either at work or here or there, health-wise or, prosperity-wise or whatever the case may be, you see, those circumstances can't have you. You have to somehow rise above it. To God's reality. That's crucial, how you see things and what you think and believe about them and how what you accept about them. The Apostle Paul came right in behind Jesus and said basically the same thing. And he said, be not conformed to this world, but be transformed. Okay? So important. These are simple, basic messages, but so important for us to gain. Jesus, in so many ways, referred to the two different realities and the reality that we're to be taken into. He said, you can either build your house on a rock, and when the storms come, it will not fall. Or you can build your house on sand, and when the winds blow and the storms come, great will be that fall. And he's talking about two realities. Basically, the house that he's talking about is the house of your consciousness. You see, where you're building your framework from the within. Very important. Do you know that lotto winners, the statistics reveal that over 70% of all lotto winners run out of the money and their winnings in 5 years or less. That's a statistic. You see, somehow their house is built on sand of limitation or belief in it. Somehow their consciousness doesn't have a vibrational match for maintaining and keeping the good. So life is always changing. And nothing is permanent in the external. And we're called to embrace a higher dimension or plane of existence because it's there. It's waiting to be lived from, always. Jesus said, lay not up for yourself treasures upon the earth, where moth and rust doth consume and thieves break in and steal. But lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where moth and rust does not consume and thieves don't break in. And basically heaven, the treasures are of the heart, because his next sentence that he said, for where your treasure is, there will your heart be also. Where do we put our heart? So often our mind goes off into separation and fear, but our heart won't take us there. The ego cannot speak to you when you're in your heart. It's silenced. Transformation is essentially a movement then from the head to the heart. You know, the head, the mind of separation into a heart of oneness. And the heart is the altar of God. The heart is where God speaks. It is the home of higher intelligence. It is the heart intelligence that assures you of a greater goodness always, no matter what you're seeing out there, that there is beauty and goodness in its true essence. And then Jesus said, you know, no man can serve two masters. Well, you know, basically what gets your attention gets you. Where your attention goes, energy flows. Those are basic principles, you know. And then he gave us a way of perception and perceiving in the world. And it was very simple. He said, you need to see with a single eye. The single eye of knowing what is true. No matter what's happening out there, no matter what's happening in your life, what's coming at you, the single eye you must hold to, which is not a lesser plane of existence, but is God's reality. It is truth. And that's much of what we're called to learn in this life. You see, it's not perfect. There's a lot out there going on that reflect a spiritual immaturity for sure. We can't judge people. We just have to say, oh, there's so much that many have not learned yet. Thank you for those who are being a light in the world and are remembering to live from the reality of the innermost of their being. You see, the single eye. He says, if thine eye be single, thy whole body shall be full of light. And what he's saying is that if you want to be having the light of a peacefulness and a sense of joy and love and oneness, then you have to see with that single eye, and you'll maintain that. He's teaching a way of seeing and being. And the key is that you learn to know that this reality is something that you are being called to know that it's in your midst no matter what's happening. It's knowing that when looking at a seed, its reality is there's a flower. When looking at lack, you know that the reality is an infinite God, abundance. And knowing that when there's conflict or division, that the reality is oneness is there and peace. That kind of thing, no matter what. You know, I have an example of a single-mindedness that occurred in my life, and it's somebody that at least you know of. Deepak Chopra was here numerous times to speak when I was here, and also has been here since I've departed, and departed in the right way, just physically. I am reality. I'm not a figment of your imagination. Okay. Anyway, so he and I got to know each other pretty well from having been here numerous times. And so one day that he came in to speak, he came in a day early, so we went golfing. And so he and I, and actually Rudy Tomjanovich, former coach of the Houston Rockets, and a friend of Rudy's. So we were a foursome. And so Deepak and I were in one cart, Rudy and his friend in the other. And so we were playing and along, and about midway through the round, we came to a hole, and we all hit off the tee, and we all were fortunate enough that time to be in the fairway. So our second shot is what was crucial, because basically the second shot involved going over a body of water and then landing on the green. Now, where the body of water, which was like a pond, it was fairly sizable and noticeable. And where it ended, the green began, so there was no space in between. It required precision. So Rudy's friend went first, and he hit, and we saw a splash. And then Rudy went. And it was a splash. Two guys left. I was next. I said, I'm not going in that water. That water is not going to get me. Boom, splash. So that left Deepak. And Deepak was last. His drive actually went the longest, so you go last if you're closest. And anyway, so he got over the ball and just looked once and hit. Landed on the green. So we get in the cart, and I'm driving. He gets in the cart. And I say, way to go, Deepak. You know, of the four of us, you were the only one that didn't hit the ball in the water. And he looked at me and he, without any expression, and said, what water? What water? He refused to acknowledge. He was in the world of golf with all its hazards, its sand, its water, its rough, its trees, things that you can get in trouble. But he was above it. He was not of it. I love that. I'll never forget how he said that. So I personally have been, working on the challenge of recognizing that all that's going on in the world, and I like to keep up with it, as I don't want to have my head in the sand. I'm a part of this world, I'm a part of this nation, and I want to know what's going on, and from that be able to bless it and send light if possible. And sometimes it gets me. Sometimes the stuff is crazy out there, and I may be inclined to judge, but we're not supposed to judge. And sometimes I have to fight not to have it be carried with me and bother me. And so I'm working on that because I want to be above it, not of it. And it's something we're all called to do. And there's a lady that sent me her book. She just wrote a book. Her name is Jennifer Swankowski, actually, and she's a PhD social worker. And her book is titled The Waiting Room. It's a good book. And just to tell you a little segment, she was at a very low place. She had a physical challenge that went on for over a year, and she was making no headway. No one was diagnosing it and so forth, and it was over a year. And so at some point, there was a turning point where she came out of another appointment at a physician's office. And she said she went to her car, and she writes, at that moment, I felt me reach out for me and wrap my arms around myself. And I was sitting there and I thought, I'm going to be okay. I'm going to be okay. We all need to reach out for the me that is our true reality and affirm always, I'm going to be okay, no matter what's going on. Well, in the next moment, she had a remembrance come to her. She did counseling as a social worker, and she remembered a client telling her about a prisoner of war. True guy, his name was James Stockdale, and he had been in prison for a long time and eventually got out, prisoner of war. And when he was asked how it was that he had survived mentally and physically during this lengthy time as a prisoner, he had an interesting answer. And his answer was, he said he didn't hold out false hope, like I'll be home for Christmas. He said, but he would say to himself something like, I'm going to be okay one day. I don't know when that is, but today is obviously not that day. And today, I have to do what I need to do to survive what he called this hell that he was in. It was a system of really reasonable hope and radical acceptance of what was, but also knowing there was a reality. He was going to be okay. And it says we don't need to hold false hope out that the Ukraine war is going to be over tomorrow or this or that, whatever you want to put in its place. We are to know we're going to be okay and that things come and go. And things will always get better and finish and complete. And humanity will go on and people will learn what was there to learn somehow in the experience, because that's what we're here for, to somehow see beyond it and do what we need to do within ourselves to rise above and not be of it. So there is something that knows us and is calling us to itself always. And it sees with a single eye. It sees beyond to what is possible, to what is of good, that is of God's reality. Choose that reality. I leave you with one other reality. God is loving you now and always. God bless you.
Watching this message today, I'd like to invite you to join us in person here on campus at Unity of Houston for Sunday morning or Wednesday evening services. If you can't be with us here on our campus, you can still join us live on Facebook or on our website, unityhouston.org, Sunday mornings at 11 a.m. Central.